against Nigel Farage back then in UKIP. I mean, it's a big political journey you've been on. How are you feeling today?
Nothing has been offered. I've joined this party as the 270-something thousandth member, and I'm proud to do so and to work not just with Nigel, but with a set of people I've come to know over a period of time, some for a very long time, like my constituency neighbour Lee Anderson, others like Richard and Sarah and Zia, I see Layla over there, who have built this party from nothing, and I'm just here to play my part, to lend my support and experience to making it the greatest success that it possibly can be.
Emotional day there for Robert Jenrick. He, of course, won that by-election in Newark against UKIP, and I've covered Nigel Farage campaigning then against Robert Jenrick. So a moment here, he's quit a party he was part of since he was aged 14. He's put aside personal ambition to lead the Tory party. He's the most senior-ranking Tory in the Conservative Home list of people who may lead that party if it weren't Kemi Badenoch. Talk started in September last year. They've been firmed up today, not by Nigel Farage, but by Kemi Badenoch. Is the beginning of the realignment of the right of British politics. Michelle.
What a fascinating day. Christopher Hope, thank you very much for being there and bringing us all up to speed on that one. It's just gone 6 o'clock. I am Michelle Dewberry. This is Dewbs & Co. And goodness gracious me, we have a lot that we need to discuss. It started, as you've just been hearing, of course, there with the brutal and very shocking sacking of Robert Jenrick. Many people sitting there saying, hold on a second, we've been suspecting for a very long time that he was going to defect to Reform UK, but then of course it all became official at 4:30 then this afternoon when he was unveiled. I've got to tell you, there's a couple of seconds there where people were holding their breath because they seemed to have lost him, but then he did indeed pop up on the stage and address the audience. So of course he did then defect, as many I've just been saying were suspecting, to Reform UK. So what is going to happen next? Are we going to have a realignment of the right? Who will be the winners? Who will be the losers? And of course, what does all of this mean for the left? I invite you all at home to be part of the conversation tonight. I can see the inbox filling up, the Your Say on the website going absolutely wild as you all digest what you've just been seeing and hearing. Alongside me in the studio to do just that, I've got Labour MP Catherine Atkinson. Alongside her, I've got former Tory MP Daniel Kaczynski, and he returns after a very long holiday, lucky so-and-so, the former editor of The Sun, Kelvin Mackenzie. Good evening to you. You're all very welcome tonight, as are each and every single one of you. And if you're just tuning in for the first time, wondering how do you join the conversation, well, you do it in all the usual ways. You can email me, gbviews@gbnews.com. You can go to the website, gbnews.com/yoursay. Of course, you can tweet and you can X me. Some of you are getting in touch saying that this is one of the best days you've had for a long time. Are you a Reform supporter? Do you think this is good news for Reform UK? Do you think it's bad news for them? And what does it all mean for the Tories? Daniel, let me start with you. Robert Jenrick, I mean, this sacking from Kemi Badenoch this morning, it came out of the blue. It was absolutely brutal. We know now that she essentially was past things like some of his defection speech and things like that. She was very brutal. She said that he was trying to undermine the Tories in a public, humiliating manner. And he did. He did not hold back when it comes to your party. He essentially said that you've broken Britain, that many of you, many of the ministers, etc., are still to this day in denial and won't admit it. What do you say back to that?
Well, of course, it's very debilitating for a party like mine to lose very senior, highly intelligent people like Robert Jenrick and indeed Nadhim Zahawi. I served with Nadhim Zahawi on the Foreign Affairs Select Committee for 3 years, and I got to know the calibre of the man. So losing these sort of personalities to Reform is very bad. But on the other hand, I'm very impressed with Kemi. I said the other day on television here on GB News that more and more people are saying to me, Kemi is starting to get her feet under the table and show real leadership, as Margaret Thatcher had to do in 75, 76, 77. Kemi has shown real leadership in this, in the sense that she's going to punish and expel people who are trying to undermine the Conservative Party. And of course, there's an attraction to join Nigel Farage at the moment. He's doing very well in the opinion polls. But I think, as I said to Kelvin before we came on air, I think we've reached peak Farage. And I think the mistake that these two highly intelligent men have made is joining onto a bandwagon which has actually reached its maximum capacity. And the only party that has any chance of defeating the socialists at the next general election is the Conservative Party. So I think they've miscalculated in their own long-term interest. And finally, I would say is this, as having represented a seat for 19 years in Parliament, my predecessor in Shrewsbury was a man who was a Labour MP who defected to the Lib Dems, and then he defected back to Labour. His name was Paul Marsden. It caused chaos and consternation in my constituency. If a member of Parliament is going to have the conviction of leaving one political party and joining the other, the least he could do is to give the electorate who gave them this privileged position the opportunity to decide whether or not they agree with what he has done. And again, unfortunately, as is the case with many of his predecessors, he has not afforded the people of Newark that right.
Neil, one of my viewers says, goodness me, is this, he's essentially asking if this is what he's got to look forward to every day until the next general election. He says, please just wake me up the day before the next general election. Neil, get into the swing of it, my friend. It's finally starting to get a little bit more exciting than it has been for quite some time, I would say. Kelvin McKenzie, your thoughts?
I think it's a win-win for the right. I think it's a win for Jenrick and a win for reform. He strengthens reform. Whether he strengthens himself, I'm not entirely sure, since I buy the idea that Nigel is a great charmer, and in he'll come and he'll just become another foot soldier for the. After all, Farage is the most successful politician of any of our times, including Thatcher. Nobody has ever started off riding a bicycle 30 years ago and ended up with 24% of the polls. The other one who's a winner out of it, of course, is Kemi. She strengthens her grip on the Conservative Party, and actually, collectively, the right has done great. And so that's what I take out of all this. I think the moment that Kemi feels stronger, she will be more inclined to do a deal with Farage. When she was way back in the polls and fighting for her political life, she didn't want to do a deal. Now she's queen of all she surveys, and it'll be great. So I'm looking forward to the moment that the right crushes the living daylights out of
we
Labour.
can agree on that, certainly.
Catherine, I've got to tell you, I mean, you will have heard it for yourself as well. Robert Jenrick was absolutely brutal about the Labour Party. But when you see the goings-on of today, do you feel that Labour are in a stronger position to oppose the right, or a weaker one now?
I think this was the most botched, inept defection that I have ever seen. And I think it leaves both the Conservatives and Reform looking far, far weaker. But Robert Jenrick will certainly have some familiar faces surrounding him. What is he, the fourth former Conservative MP that has now joined Reform? It just looks like you can't tell the difference between the parties. I don't think I personally know any Reform councillors who aren't former Conservatives. And it's just the same people wearing different rosettes, but it makes the Reform look like the party of Conservative rejects and rats fleeing the Conservative sinking ship. And we have to remember that Jenrick was a Conservative minister. He wasn't just he was an immigration minister, he was a health minister, he was a housing minister, he was a treasury minister. He is part and parcel of the party that he now says broke our country. So I think that between the two, it's quite clear that they're effectively now increasingly the same party. And I hope the next election they'll be rejecting both of them.
Well, I just want to say to you as well, sorry, one sec. There's actually going to be a defection announced, I think it's Tuesday next week, from the Labour Party.
Well, we will wait and see. But what we do know is that there's...
Is it going to be you? Secretly?
It certainly will never be me. What we do know, I mean, I don't believe it for a second. What we do know is that there has never been a Labour MP defect to Reform. We're now on, what, the 24th former Conservative MP defecting.
But surely you don't think it's completely unfeasible that somebody who was elected into the Labour Party to represent essentially the working class people might look at the Labour Party as it is today and say, actually, do you know what, we're not representing the working class people, and Reform UK are the ones that actually will be representing the workers. Surely you don't think that's an unfeasible viewpoint?
I just can't see it. And the more that we see of reform in actual local government, the more that we had heard them at the last local election, saying that they were going to cut council tax and improve services, and we've seen the opposite. They're all raising council tax and slashing services. So I can't see why any Labour MP would ever go near them.
You wanted to come back in, Daniel?
I think it's slightly unfair of our Labour colleague to be so disparaging, in the sense that they have also the same splits in their party. Of course, Madame Sultana and Jeremy Corbyn, you know, are also forming a different party. And
what about Mr. Polanski?
And Mr. Polanski, and of course, but there's speculation that there will be other Labour MPs who leave Sir Keir Starmer's party in order to join Jeremy Corbyn and Madame Sultana. So actually, you know, rather than getting involved in the media hysteria about this, let's just recognise that our political system is changing. We're moving away from a rigid three-party system, and other parties are starting to develop on either side, on the right and the left. We've got to understand and acknowledge that our political system is changing, but we have to understand that ultimately, for somebody like me, I think if you have the privilege of representing a constituency and you have the privilege of people going out in the pouring rain to deliver leaflets for you, a move from one political party to another is something that you should not take lightly. And I repeat what I said earlier, which is I'm very disappointed with Mr. Jenrick that he doesn't have the confidence of putting to the people of Newark the results of his own personal decision.
But have you said that every single time anyone's ever defected? Have you always sat there? If someone defected to the Tories, have you been sitting on the airways saying there needs to be a by-election?
Oh, absolutely. And I'm somebody who has come from a constituency. I remember the first thing that happened to me when I was selected as the Conservative parliamentary candidate for Shrewsbury in 2002. And I was facing a Liberal Democrat member of Parliament who had been elected as a Labour member of Parliament. I mean, the confrontation and the discombobulation that created within the local community politically, anybody who was involved in politics and had voted. We have to change. I think this just accentuates to me, we have to change the law in the sense that if a member of Parliament wants to change political parties, there should be an automatic mechanism to go for a by-election.
Would you agree with that specifically as well? Are you in Newark? What do you think to this defection? Do you think there should be a by-election or not? I just want to bring Reform UK into this conversation as well. Joining me now is Russell Quirk, the Reform UK councillor on Brentwood Council in Essex. Good evening to you. Your reaction to the goings-on today?
It was great news, isn't it? And look, long trailed, I think. I think Robert Jenrick has been showing his reform credentials for some time. He's established himself as what I would call a proper Conservative with a small c, Michelle, particularly when where immigration and crime are concerned. And look, you know, he's nailed his colours to the mast, hasn't he? He's sick of the Conservatives, their lacklusterness and their lurch to the left. Kemi Badenoch's desperate attempts, really, to try and remain relevant. And frankly, actually, from the Conservative perspective, I think a real misstep by Kemi in the and the Conservative Party themselves, in that I think Robert Jenrick, it's fair to say, was probably the only hope, the only saviour for the Conservative Party, in that if he had become leader, they may have actually got some old Conservative voters back on side. And of course, now that's not going to happen because Robert is now a member of the Reform Party, which, you know, is, for me, as an ex-Conservative, back to your guest point just now, Reform is the home of small c conservatism. So it's not that these people, whether it be Robert Jenrick or Nadhim Zahawi or me, are leaving the Conservative Party and defecting to Reform. Frankly, the Conservative Party, Michelle, left lots of us many, many years ago when the likes of David Cameron decided to start running around the North Pole on a skidoo talking about the ozone layer and hugging hoodies.
The point that's been raised many times again as well today in the press conference with Robert Jenrick, that actually if you keep on taking all these Tories, essentially you will just become the Tories 2.0. Does that concern you or not?
No, because Robert Jenrick and Nadeem Sahawi are not going to be putting policy in place. Policy for reform is being put in place by Azir Yousaf, his team, and of course Nigel Farage, who's our leader. So no, I think let's not be naive about this. I think as some of your panellists are being, in terms of why it might be that Nadeem Sahawi did X or Robert Jenrick said Y. We all know that when you're a member of a cabinet in government, that you have a thing called collective responsibility. You wouldn't expect Robert Jenrick to come running out the cabinet office on a Tuesday morning, decrying everything that had just been agreed around the cabinet table 5 minutes later with whoever the leader was at the time. So, we need to give politicians some credit. And in fact, the media, of course, would soon be lamenting that if indeed it did happen. So, we've all been members of different things in the past. We've all moved on. But frankly, as I say, reform is the home of true, in my view, Thatcherite conservatism. That's why I'm a member of Reform, because I'm telling you, if Mrs. Thatcher, Margaret Thatcher, were in politics today, she would be a member of Reform, not the current Conservative Party.
Oh, that is a very bold statement. Is there anyone that you wouldn't want to come over from the Tories?
Yeah, do you want a list? Tobias Ellwood, Rory Stewart, Dominic Grieve, Jeremy Hunt.
Hard taxes?
Blimey. And obviously as well, Boris Johnson, of course, that was ruled out by Nigel Farage earlier on, wasn't it? Russell Quirk, thank you very much for joining me. That's Reform UK's councillor on Brentwood. Ronnie says, Michelle, what you're all talking about, there won't even be a Conservative Party by the next general election. Paula says, Michelle, Reform have now got experienced politicians who have worked in government, which is what they wanted. This is what it was all about. Rob says, don't forget, Farage himself was a former Tory. And Jacqueline says, how can we never ever hear of anyone defecting to Labour? Catherine, you were shaking your head when you were listening to Russell there. Why?
I was, because we have to remember that Robert Jenrick was the immigration minister who ordered the painting over of the murals, the cartoons in the reception of the Immigration Centre for Young Asylum Seekers. He literally painted over Mickey Mouse. I think he's the poster child for talking tough on immigration while letting immigration get worse and worse and the entire system becoming broken. But Robert Jenrick is a fraud and not to be trusted. Those aren't my words. Those are the words of Nigel Farage, the same Nigel Farage who's now opening his arms and welcoming him in. So I certainly don't think that Nigel Farage is necessarily a good judge of character, or maybe he's just not that picky.
But if he was here now, Robert Jenrick, he would say the reason that he ordered the painting over of those murals is that he was trying to make it a less attractive proposition, less welcoming, a more unpleasant experience,
And in his time, we saw the Boris wave, and we saw criminal gangs able to entrench their organised crime in people smuggling. So I think that, as I say,
how has Labour done? What about the 65,000 that Labour have let in since in what is only 20 months now? Come on, nobody has any solutions to this. Right? The Tories were terrible. Labour actually said, we're going to solve this. Do you remember all that? One out, one in. And now we've won one out. We had 65,000 in. I don't think we need any dictatorships from the left on how it all works.
Not a dictatorship quite yet. Thank you very much.
Well, it's very close to it, isn't it? You've got 170 odd people. You can't do it. My point about Jenrick going, actually, clever guy, actually made some good points. Actually, they now, to my mind, have a better Justice Secretary in Nick Timothy. Nick Timothy has been actually torturing Labour over what has been going on in the Maccabi scandal. And also on a load of other ways. He is an enormously clever guy, very driven, actually very ambitious, and I should think actually more ambitious actually than Jenrick actually in some respects. So I expect you guys to be held to more account under the Timothy regime than you were under the Jenrick regime.
But wasn't Nick Timothy also the same man who was advisor to Theresa May when she changed the law so that we're in a position that now the Home Secretary can't sack back.
Yeah, that is absolutely true. He was sitting there, but he wasn't the Prime Minister, so you can't blame him. He was just he was simply a pen pusher in the same way as you've got them at number 10 as well.
David says, watch your back, Nigel Farage. Robert Jenrick will be after your job in about 2 years' time. Helena says, hold on a second, Michelle. I was a Tory. Why can I not go elsewhere when my party has now changed beyond all recognition? This is what many people are saying, Daniel, that they haven't left the Tories, that conservatism and the Conservatives have left them.
I think for me, the most important thing that we did as Conservatives in the first... we were in office for 14 years. In the first 9 years, we did exactly the right thing. Does what it says on the tin. Ronsil. Ronsil, is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Does what it says on the tin. We reduced the annual deficit every single year for the first 9 years that we were in government. The Socialists called it austerity. We called it living within your means. And at a time that you're 2.8 trillion in debt today, with debt interest payments of 120 billion this year alone, so we've now reached the situation as a country where we spend more on debt interest payments than we spend on the entire defence of our nation and the entire education of our children, a situation not too dissimilar from France. When you're moving into that sort of perilous area of levels of debt, you've got to think, how does a political party reduce deficits in peacetime in order to prepare for the calamities that are starting to descend on us with alarming frequency? We dealt with it, the pandemic. We had to borrow 600 billion to pay 60 million people to stay at home for a year and a half and do nothing. That destroyed the economy and it had...
But that was very much a political choice, wasn't it?
Well,
there were other options available.
I don't think we had any other option.
Well, there were. There was a proposal called, I think it was the Great Barrington Declaration or something along those lines, where it was talking about focused protection, where it was talking about keeping at home the most vulnerable in society, the elderly people, the people with comorbidities, things like that. Instead, the Tories made the political choice to lock down the entire society.
It would have been a very brave politician, and I remember being at the House of Commons at that time. It would have been a very brave politician of any political party, given the peak of the worry and fear that many people had at the start of the pandemic, to have challenged that narrative that we needed to give people the opportunity to hold back from day-to-day working and protect themselves. No political party actually challenged us on that.
You need to hold your thoughts, because whilst you're a fascinating man, the viewers cannot properly hear you.
I think that's true. That is true.
Kelvin Mackenzie, many of my viewers, I'm telling you, many of my viewers are delighted by this news today and say the next thing that would delight them to the next level would be Suella Braverman stepping over. Do you think that will happen?
Well, I would have thought if it was going to happen with Suella, it would have happened by now. I would like to see Nigel promoting more of his own. I'd like to see more people who were not retreads and members of Tory tribute bands. I would like to see some fresh faces. I'd like to see some younger faces. I'd like to see some more driven women of the right at the top table of reform, frankly. And I'm hoping that Jenrick turns out to be the last major mover before the made the seven gates fall down within reform. I think it's time. You do better if you create your own stars rather than trying to take other people's.
I think I've got a clip as well of Nigel Farage. I think let's just play you that one.
But the road to great success very often is littered with failures along the way. The clever people recognise those failures, adapt and change. And there's little doubt that in terms of political conviction and thought, that Robert Jenrick has changed enormously over the course of the last decade.
Well, I can tell you that. I can tell you now that that created a laugh there from Daniel. But one of the other things, coming back to Robert Jenrick's speech, Catherine, Robert Jenrick said, and I quote, "These people, i.e. you guys, you run Britain as though you hate it." What do you say about that?
I just fundamentally disagree. I think it's rubbish. I think we are having to rebuild after 14 years of austerity, which has trashed our public services and which was economically devastating. But I do think it's hilarious that Nigel Farage is talking about people changing. What's clear is that Nigel Farage hasn't. He was a Conservative. He became UKIP, became Brexit Party and is now Reform. There is nothing new about Reform. It is just the same people with different rosettes on. And it is... I'm an impatient person. I want things to move even faster. But we have seen now not just the fantastic news on NHS waiting lists today, with today's data being the second biggest drop in 15 years. We've seen 6 interest rate cuts, which is so helpful for people's mortgage rates. And we've seen wages going up more in 10 months than we saw under the Conservatives in 10 years. So it does take time to repair the damage that was caused by 14 years of austerity.
Catherine, how's the economy doing?
We are managing to
well, how's it doing? The economy,
beat
with all
the
these
growth forecasts. We're seeing the city doing
pluses.
Fantastically. We're seeing record investment in our country. But of course, we want to go further and faster when it comes to the cost of living. And that's why so much of what we are doing, from bringing children out of poverty to freezing rail costs and £150 off energy bills,
whilst I respect
all
you've got
help.
your points to land, when you look specifically at the allegations that Robert Jenrick was making, he's saying stuff like, and I quote, "You're crushing workers to fund scroungers on benefits." You talk about public services. He says it's the unions running our public services. He says you're prosecuting veterans. He talks about you now trying to end jury trials, cancelling elections and giving away our territory and paying £35 billion for the privilege. He's talking about Chagos, of course, there. So very specific things that he's blaming on you there.
Well, I think the first half of your list was all incredibly vague and actually full of misrepresentations.
We're
not
vague. Let's take the first sentence. Let's take the first sentence. Crushing workers.
Are you not scrapping?
We're not scrapping jury trials.
But you are
not
for
abolishing
every
jury
single
trials.
charge that isn't serious.
What is so
it's not
frustrating.
murder and it's not manslaughter and the like. Everything else you want to do away with.
Deliberate misrepresentation constantly by using words like scrapping and abolition.
Well, who will face the charge then? Will somebody on ABH face a jury?
So
yes or no?
Both the Callaghan government and the Thatcher government actually...
No. Tell me, are you or are you not in the majority going to scrap jury trials? The majority.
We are not scrapping jury trials.
You are keeping them for some area, but in mostly you are scrapping jury trials, aren't you?
I spent 17 years as a barrister.
OK.
And I have...
Tell me the charges that won't face the jury. Just tell the viewers who probably don't know as much as you do as a barrister.
Yeah.
Tell them which charges will no longer face a jury.
Complex fraud and economic crimes.
Are they the only ones? Are they the only ones?
You could let me finish, and then
go
I will
on.
keep going.
Go through the whole list.
So we don't have a draft bill yet, but what has been clear, I spent a year of my life part of a team prosecuting an insider trading case, which we spent huge amounts of money and resources looking at how we present to a jury. I don't need any persuading that would be better and that would be more proportionate.
Just tell the viewers how many charges are no longer going to face the jury. Just tell the jury. Just tell the viewers. Go on, how many? How many?
Because a figure doesn't exist. You're asking
but how many? Well, go on. Just give us an indication. Just beyond your particular case of insider fraud. Give us other examples. Will, for instance, I don't know, crashing a car into another car and somebody being injured, will that face a trial?
So various crimes involving vehicles were ceased to be jury trials under the Thatcher government.
No, I'm just asking
you've just
now.
given me a specific example involving a car, and I am telling you that the 1998 Criminal Justice Act...
You won't tell anybody. You won't tell anybody because it's about murder Murder, yes, you'll carry on doing that. Jolly good. Well,
So
well done,
murder,
you.
yes, or
But by and large, about 70% are going to disappear, aren't they?
The point that you're not...
And they're going to be thrown out. In fact, let's be honest, Lammy is never going to progress with
Right,
this.
let me just bring some clarity into it, because as I understand it, the proposal is if you've got a crime which is going to attract a custodial sentence of less than 3 years, they are what you are proposing to scrap. You've got one of your elected MPs now, Carl Turner, who's the MP for East Hull. He's come out and said, obviously he's got connections, this is his background in terms of law and order, criminality, etc. He said he will trigger a by-election. He feels so strongly about this if you don't do a U-turn.
I have a huge amount of respect for Carl Turner. He's been an MP for a very, very long time. And I believe in jury trials. I wanted to be a barrister and to be able to be doing jury trials from when I was a child, probably from watching too many court dramas on TV. I believe in jury trials, as do our justice ministers. But what is absolutely clear is that we have a backlog of over 80,000 cases. We have got victims who are waiting years. We have got witnesses who are waiting years. And it's either way offences that we are talking about. And we have seen, which is where a defendant gets to pick between either he can choose or she can choose either having a case in the magistrate's court or having it before a jury. And we have seen the percentage of those who choose a jury trial over magistrate's trial double, because people have started to game the system, because they know that if we've got delays of 2, 3, 4 years, there is much greater chances of those cases collapsing, of the victims and the witnesses pulling out and saying we won't do it. So they've got a better chance, even in cases where the evidence is so strong, they've got a better chance of getting off. That cannot be right. That is not a fair trial, and that is undermining public... Do you think there'll be a U-turn on that? Do you think there'll be a U-turn on that, on the Lammy view? That is undermining...
Do you think there'll be a U-turn on the Lammy view?
We haven't got a bill yet.
No.
So I think that if you're talking about
hold on a second, we've already seen with digital,
the
digital bill, you don't need digital. You don't need a bill.
You're trying to change the subject now, but that's fine.
You can have a U-turn. You can have a U-turn. I suspect there's going to be a U-turn. It'll collapse, won't it?
Well, what do you guys make to everything that you are hearing? I can tell you that there's a lot of celebration from Reform UK members, voters getting in touch. You're very delighted today about what you're hearing about Robert Jenrick. If you're a Tory, lots of you are getting in touch as well and saying that you feel that this is a very sad loss for the Conservatives. I want to bring you back into the conversation a little bit more as well after the break. Don't go anywhere, because there's so much more that we need to discuss.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
Through the rest of the week and into the weekend, there's some pretty unsettled weather spreading its way eastwards across the Mediterranean. As we go through tomorrow, there'll be rain, even some hill snow pushing through Portugal and Spain, also some heavy bursts of rain across southern France. All of that is going to make its way eastwards, and so although there's some dry, at times bright weather around at the moment, as we go into the weekend, we're in for some heavy thundery rain and also some strong gusty winds leading to rough sea.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
Evening, welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Things turning a bit drier over eastern England tonight, and that will allow things to turn perhaps a bit foggy through the night, and as things turn chilly, we may see some icy patches first thing tomorrow. But it's been a very wet day for some today. This area of low pressure crossing through England has been bringing some heavy and persistent rain. Still a lot of spray and surface water on the roads out there this evening, but all tending to pull away out into the North Sea by soon after midnight. Showers will follow into Wales and southern parts of England, the east of Northern Ireland and southwest Scotland, but otherwise turning dry. Quite a cold night across the north especially, some pockets of frost likely, certainly where there's snow lying on the ground across Scotland. Temperatures may well get down to -5 to maybe as low as -8 Celsius. So a cold, frosty start across northern Scotland. Should be some sunshine. Could also be some mist and fog around. A cloudier start across southwest Scotland with some showers drifting in here, and the same goes for the east of Northern Ireland. In fact, it could be misty and foggy almost anywhere first thing, with some showers close to the south coast and into westernmost parts of Wales. But overall, certainly for central and eastern England, much drier than today. In the west, where we see these showers coming into Devon, Cornwall, western side of Wales, the east coast of Northern Ireland and southwest Scotland. Could be heavy, could even turn into thunderstorms. 1 or 2 showers possible elsewhere, but equally many places will be dry and bright with a bit of sunshine if the fog clears. Now, if the fog sticks, which it can do at this time of year, temperatures will really struggle, but generally we're looking at 6 to 9 degrees, so about average for the time of year. Into Saturday, and well, again, it's a bit of a messy one. Some mist and low clouds sticking in places. A few showers across northern England and Scotland, some around western coast, but many areas I suspect will be dry on Saturday. It should brighten up a little in some spots, and temperatures again about 5 to 9 Celsius. Bye for now.
Thank you for making us Britain's #1 news channel. Together, we have built something truly extraordinary.
Good evening. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. On the A90 northbound at Tipperty, a road traffic incident is partially blocking the carriageway. On the M4 westbound, expect heavy congestion at junction 32 Corriton and again at junction 20. In Leicestershire, the M1 northbound exit slip at Leicester Forest East Services is closed after a load spillage. Also, the M42 southbound has a collision with 2 of 3 lanes shut, causing delays. And on the trains, the Elizabeth line is disrupted between Stratford and Shenfield, and Great Western Railway is using road transport between Liskeard and Looe, with disruption between Fareham and Southampton Central. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Dewbs & Co with me, Michelle Dewberry, till 7. Alongside me, I've got Labour MP Catherine Atkinson, former Tory MP Daniel Kaczynski, and the former editor of The Sun, Kelvin Mackenzie. So many of you are getting in touch about the huge news, of course, that's dominating conversations on your sofas, around your dinner tables, I'm sure, tonight. That, of course, was the sacking of Robert Jenrick this morning, very quickly, followed by a 4:30 this afternoon, him announcing that he has now defected to Reform UK. There was a press conference taking place. He's just actually left that press conference. Let's take a listen. Let's try that again.
You denied that you were going to defect. Last Friday you denied that you were going to defect. Why weren't you truthful with that?
I've never been more convinced it's the right thing to do.
But why weren't you truthful?
Thanks very much.
Why can't you apologise?
It's the right thing for the country.
Sorry, the
I'm very pleased I'm doing it.
I mean, it was pretty ruthless with Kenny Badenoch, wasn't it? Why can't you apologise, Mr. Jenrick?
Thinking that this was how his day was going to end. We know now that he has had conversations with Reform UK since, I think it was September. And actually, Nigel Farage, at the top of that press conference, turned around and said it was kind of 60-40 as to whether or not Robert Jenrick was actually going to leave. Nigel Farage feels actually Kemi did him a favour. He described it as like Christmas earlier on. One of my viewers, Lil, says Michelle, Kemi should have worked harder to keep him. I'm sure lots of ministers have had doubts, but for someone to leak his thoughts, she says, it was treacherous. And Kemi, knowing this, had time to speak to him. She didn't, and it was a misstep by Kemi. Daniel, what do you think to what Lil says?
Well, I disagree, but just before I explain that, I mean, our Labour colleague has been extolling the virtues of the Labour government. The problem is, of course, it's all on borrowed money. We're in peacetime, and the Labour government is borrowing at a faster pace than any other government over the last 20 to 30 years. So they are stacking up, racking up even more debts at a time when the next global catastrophe is going to descend on us in perhaps 5, 10, 15 years. So I think your viewers have to understand that whatever achievements they claim they are implementing for Britain, they are borrowing at a massive, totally unsustainable way. I disagree with your caller in the sense that I totally back Kemi. She has shown tremendous leadership and skill, strength in exposing the fact that anybody who tries to undermine the Conservative Party and defect to the Reform Party is clearly not loyal. A party cannot function without internal discipline and loyalty to the leader. And we also see the difficulties the Labour government are facing in the sense that there is also a huge amount of disloyalty to Sir Keir. So this isn't something peculiar to the Conservative Party. Both main political parties are seeing challenges to their leadership, but I would say the difference between the Conservatives and Labour is that Kemi is on the upward trajectory, whereas Sir Keir, and we all know, his days are numbered.
Kevin, let me just ask you, what do you think to Lil's point about this being a misstep from Kemi Badenoch? Do you agree or not?
No, I don't. She had to get rid of him. I mean, it's the equivalent of you're the manager of Arsenal and you're having secret talks to join Manchester City, then boom, you're gone. The management throw you out, and that's her role. And she did right, 100% right, to do that. What I'm rather looking forward to is the Welsh election, because I saw some polling just before I came here, where actually the Conservatives and the Labour Party are at 10%. Which would mean, I think, one seat for Labour. Well, they've run the place into the ground now for the last 60, 70 years, or even longer, actually, I should think. But what will happen when that happens? I don't think that Kemi would have been in big trouble with that 10%. Say it is 10%. She would have been in big trouble. She will not be in big trouble now. She's quite strong, and I think what will happen now, either the Chancellor or the Shadow Chancellor or the Shadow Home Secretary, they're likely to be moved aside and somebody else take over, right? I could think of some good people, like Lady Lamb, for instance. I'd like to see her come forward. On the other side, when Starmer gets 10% and basically gets destroyed in Scotland, which is going to cheer me up no end, right? Actually, he will be in a hell of a problem within the Labour Party. So it's very curious what's going on at the moment. You would have thought that Kemi might be weaker because of this. I don't believe she is. I think her actions actually will reflect well on her as far as the Conservative Party is concerned. But I think for Starmer, unfortunately, when he does badly in May, I think thank you and good evening. Or even if it's not thank you and good evening, he's so hobbled that it doesn't really matter what he says.
Let me just quickly bring a couple of viewers in, Catherine, before I come back to you. Carol says, Michelle, I'm very sorry that Robert Jenrick has joined Reform. I would rather Kemi was gone and replaced by Jenrick. Today, the Tories have made a huge mistake, says Carol. Anne says, Michelle, I am so pleased at this recent defection to Reform. However, for me, she says, the icing on the cake would be Jacob Rees-Mogg joining Reform. I was just about to say, I don't think that'll happen, but who knows what's going to happen in these crazy times. Richard says, congratulations to Jenrick leaving a sinking ship and joining Reform UK. He says the Tories are finished as a major right-wing party. Dave says, Michelle, I've just got back from work and I've seen this devastating news. Mr Farage says, will not be getting my vote. Reform UK has become a money train for ex-Tories. I am very disappointed, he says. Catherine will want to come back to that. She's nodding her head. A quick break. When I come back from the break, we'll have Anne Widdecombe, and I shall let Catherine as well respond. I'll see you in a minute. I'm Michelle Dewberry. This is Dewbs & Co. with you.
Hello, everyone. Patrick Christie is here. GB News, Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection. Tune in to GB News, anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/your say.
There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Dewbs and Co. with me, Michelle Dewberry, till 7. I've got Kelvin McKenzie, Daniel Kaczynski and Catherine Atkinson alongside me. Without further ado, let me cross live to Anne Widdecombe. She is Reform UK's Immigration and Justice spokesperson. Good evening to you, Anne. Huge day today for Reform UK. Of course, the defection of Robert Jenrick. Your reaction?
I'm delighted. What I'm getting asked more than anything else from people who stop me in the street and from your profession is always, but, you know, you've got great ideas, but, you know, have you got the experience to actually put them into practice? Have you got people there who understand government, know what they're doing? And Robert Jenrick is the biggest beast we've got yet. And I'm absolutely delighted that he's come across, because I think he'll bring a wealth of experience with him.
And whilst he might have a wealth of experience, Anne, the reality is he's also got a wealth of baggage, especially when it comes to immigration. One of my viewers has just got in touch with quite a list of things, actually, that he doesn't like about Robert Jenrick. He calls him Shady Jenrick and says that he won't vote for Reform UK as a result. So, yes, there's a tick in the box for experience, but also a tick in the box for baggage. Do you worry a little bit that the more Tories Reform UK take on, the more baggage you take on, the less like change you feel like to some people?
No, not at all. First of all, most politicians come with some baggage or another. If you've been in power, if you've had responsibility, if you've had to take collective responsibility, sometimes for decisions that you may not have agreed with, then you will come with baggage. I think the crucial thing is that Reform has got the ideas, it's got above all the will to put them into practice, it's got a new, fresh approach. That is what we've got, but we have to combine that with the ability to deliver. And that does require some experience. Now, I can promise people who are worried about the number of Tories coming over that when we come to the general election, we're not going to produce them with a slate of people who will be running the government who are all ex-Tories. I mean, that simply won't be the case. But we do need experience, whether it comes from the Tories or from Labour. We need experience. Everybody says that. Then when we start to get it, they say, or no, you know, because these people have got baggage.
Interesting point. I can tell you, Jacob Rees-Mogg, that is one of the big names, and Suella Braverman, that is another name that people are getting in touch about, saying that they want to see join your party. Any conversations taking place with those guys that you know of?
Well, I've had a conversation with Jacob Rees-Mogg, and my very strong impression is he's not for moving. He's not going to come over. He's going to stay with the Conservative Party. Now, whether that will ever change, obviously I'm not in a position to say, but his current thinking is not in the direction of coming to reform. I mean, his daughter's come to reform, and, you know, he's obviously very sympathetic to us. He was there at our last party conference. But nevertheless, he doesn't want to make that move, certainly not at the moment.
Will people know the kind of roles that some of these people are going to be getting? So rumours, of course, that Robert Jenrick might be the Chancellor position in your party?
Well, I don't know. That's entirely up to Nigel Farage. That's I don't make appointments. But obviously he will play a big role. And we are moving to the point, we're not there yet, but we're moving to the point where we've got to attach individuals to particular roles so that they become spokesmen and so that people get an idea of what they will look like in office. And obviously, it would be amazing if Robert Jenrick wasn't given a very senior role.
Indeed. Anne Widdecombe, thank you for your time and your reactions to today's big news. Catherine, bringing you back into the conversation. Your final thoughts? We're almost out of time. Your final thoughts?
Well, I think the experience that Jenrick brings is one of failure. I would have been really interested to know whether Anne Widdecombe agrees with what Nigel Farage said previously about him being a fraud who couldn't be trusted. But while I do think this is a botched and inept defection, while I do think it is hugely damaging to Reform, who've clearly demonstrated they're just rebadged Conservatives, I think it is devastating for the Conservative Party. I think that there was a Cold War between Jenrick and Badenoch since she beat him at the leadership election. But I think this is the bomb that will destroy the Conservative Party. He has been biting at her ankles ever since, and she should have given him the boot a long, long time ago. It is only because she is weak and was forced that she finally got around to doing it.
Margaret says, Michelle, politicians should be a bit more like football fans. They don't go around changing their support on a whim. Final thoughts from you, Kelvin McKenzie?
I think I'd be grateful if the Tories didn't continue defecting. I think this will not reflect well, strangely, on Reform, actually, when all the polling starts. I wonder whether the fact that immigration is no longer the big headline it was has led to Reform coming down from 30-odd points down to 24. And I think that this will be ultimately very good news for Kemi. And I say that as somebody who is basically, you know, in football they have half and half scarves, right? I'm half Tory, I'm half Reform, and I think actually come the day it'll be the Tories that will do better out of this deal.
You don't need to change your scarf, it's basically the same.
Daniel, we're almost out of time. Your final thoughts?
Well, my final thoughts are that in the last Parliament, before our election defeat, we started off with 365 Conservative MPs. We've had 22 defections. So let's put this into perspective. The vast majority of those parliamentarians who served in the last Parliament, people like me, are staying loyal to the Conservative Party. We're gaining increasing confidence in the strength and leadership of Kemi Badenoch. I think she has managed to stop the bleeding of the Conservative Party, and I think during the course of this year she will continue to show very strong leadership.
Well, there you go. Leslie says Britain is broken and Reform are the only party, Michelle, that can turn it around. Again, so many of you, I can't tell you how many times I've heard the word Suella Braverman to be next coming in tonight. But look, speaking of next, Farage show up next. Thanks, panel. Have a great night, everyone. I'll see you tomorrow night.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Evening, welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Things turning a bit drier over eastern England tonight, and that will allow things to turn perhaps a bit foggy through the night, and as things turn